Introducing the Fantasy Sport Doctors with your hosts, Dr. Mitch Brecky, Dr. Nick Curry, and Dr. Nick Healy.
Oh, well, top of the morning to you.
Welcome to the clinic. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go.
Hey, week 13 for us, gentlemen. Are you guys ready to win some more money or what?
Keep the ball rolling.
I'm ready to win.
Yep.
I am too. Loving it.
It's getting down there. We're going to have to start winning more so that, we can cash out at the end, right?
Well, I'll be cashing out just fine. Let's just say that. But hey, how'd you guys do last week?
I did well. The Turkey Day didn't disappoint.
No.
I hope everyone was thankful for their winnings.
Oh, loving it.
I was thankful for our hot takes in my lineups.
Nice. I mean, we talked about Big Ben. He did okay.
Talked about, I think Dr. Brecky talked about Antonio Brown.
Yep.
That was like, what, Big Ben for 3 touchdowns to Antonio Brown?
I like that.
If Antonio Brown only got you 9 more yards to get the 100-yard bonus.
Huge.
What are you guys drinking today?
I have a local beer. We have Summit out of St. Paul, Minnesota. Good stuff.
Loving it.
I'm drinking the exact same thing as you. Do you want to talk about it?
I love it. We got out of Fort Collins, Colorado and Asheville, North Carolina, we have New Belgium Ranger. It's a hoppy Indian Pale Ale, and it's delicious with 6.5% alcohol. Thank you very much.
Very floral notes.
Oh, yes. Very floral.
Good for new beginnings.
Or forgetting what happened.
Yeah.
No, but in all seriousness, we talked about Big Ben last week. He did awesome, threw 3 TDs, 200 and some yards. Antonio Brown obviously killed it, caught a bunch of touchdowns. We had Le'Veon Bell in there. I think we were pretty much high on everybody from
Pittsburgh.
Yeah. I hope you guys were playing people from the Redskins and Dallas game. That was another high-scoring game. And then, on the other side of things, how did you guys actually do in your own personal stuff?
I entered a $27 tournament, which we talked about. And we talked about on Sunday, I had Colin Kaepernick starting, and he crushed it. He almost had 40 points, and I ended up taking home some cash, $40 up in that one.
So again, when we do this, we're looking at the top projected scoring games, and a lot of times when we take the top projected scoring games, we can pick out quite a few really good players to play and plug into your lineups. However, sometimes there are a few outliers that you can look at and go, hey, this guy should go in because you can get insane value this weekend. Dr. Healy was all over Colin Kaepernick.
A couple other value picks we had were my value picks that I posted up for you guys last week. 3 of the 4 of them gave you guys double-digit fantasy points. First one was Jeremy Hill. He didn't do too much on the ground, but he did have 6 receptions for 61 yards in the air, so it totally gave you 14 points. Marquise Lee got you 4 receptions and a touchdown. Deion Lewis, he was a low-point scorer. He only had 9 points there. But then you also had Seth Roberts, who had a few catches as a touchdown as well there. So, again, those are picks that we put up on our website, and it's picks that you can get for under $4,000 on DraftKings or under $5,000 on Fanduel, and they're value picks, so you pick them in your lineup, you're able to do a lot more with the rest of your lineup.
I tell you what, that was a great call on your part. That was a great call.
All right, so that's how we did last week. This week is week 13. We're actually going to start it off by we're going to go to the Dallas Vikings game because it's in Minnesota.
Oh, wow.
Sorry, Nick.
Oh.
Caught me off guard. Well, you guys are going to it, so you guys are going to get a nice bird's eye view of it.
Should be good.
There's a couple guys I like in this game, and a lot of guys I don't. I do not like Des Bryant. He's going to be up against Xavier Rhodes, who's been a shutdown corner when he's healthy. And so I think he's going to completely shut him down. But on the other aspect, I still do like Ezekiel Elliott against this defense.
Okay. Well, I personally, a little hot take here. I think if you're going to be playing cash games this weekend, I think you try and jump in on this Thursday night game and pick players that are going to start on Sunday and not in this game. I think you're going to separate yourself and differentiate yourself from some people who are maybe taking a couple of shots on some Cowboys players or some Vikings players in what should be a low-scoring game, I would assume.
You look at where the Vikings are at right now, and you look where Dallas is right now. Dallas is the best team in the league. You're waiting for that letdown game.
Yeah.
You know, this could be it. I'm not guaranteeing that, but Minnesota has the defense for this to be like. It all depends on, can Minnesota get something going on the offensive side of the ball?
Exactly.
Which it comes down to the offensive line.
Exactly.
And honestly,
and they've been injured every single game. They just don't have a congruent offensive line to work with.
Dallas doesn't have the best secondary. They have a lot of injuries. If Sam Bradford can stay on his feet and get the ball off soon enough, and Diggs comes in and plays effectively, and the defense plays like they should, one of the top in the league, I could see this being a game that they drop, because it's in Minnesota's position now after dropping last week, they need to win games.
Well, I mean, I look at it and it's like, has Dak Prescott really played a stellar defense?
No, they've only played 2 teams that have been above 500.
Yeah, then you look at it like the only loss is against the 5th-rated defense in the league, the Giants.
It was first game of the season.
And they had a chance to win if Terrence Williams gets out of bounds. They probably win that game at the very end.
I think Vikings have a decent shot here. They're up against the wall. They need a win here to keep in contention in the North. And I think Dallas is kind of going to the point where it might be cruise control time. This could be a game they drop.
I agree. I think Zimmer's going to come up with a recipe to confuse Dak Prescott being a rookie. And that being said, you said offensive line. The Minnesota's biggest problem is their offense, and the defense is going to be solid as long as you can give them a little bit of rest. Yeah. And that's it. Yeah. If they're too tired, that's where they get screwed.
It depends on how the offensive line plays for Minnesota. I think that's the break right there.
Either way, it's going to be really fun watching from the stands.
It is, because I'm going to be eating wings and drinking beer, and it's going to be a blast.
Yeah.
All right, so now move into the games that you guys should actually pick players from. We're going to start out with the number 1 scoring game. It was 53.5. Now I believe it's up to 54 is the over-under. That is going to be the Detroit Lions playing the New Orleans Saints. New Orleans is favored by 5 points in this game, and the projected score 29.5 points.
All right, this is in New Orleans. To preface before I start talking, Drew Brees does very well at home.
Straight stud.
He's straight stud. And he's going up against the Lions defenses in a 4-3 scheme. They show some 3-4 as well. They've given up 22 touchdown passes through the air this year, which is, I think, second or third most in the entire league. Might be almost the most. And only 7 interceptions. That's towards the bottom of the league. And takeaways, they have a shutdown corner in Slay, who is a good guy, a good cover man, but he's no Darrelle Revis in his prime by any means. And Minnesota did move the ball pretty decently as Sam Bradford throwing the ball around a little bit last week, even though they lost. You're looking for Brees to really air it out this week. I love him and a lot of picks, and then we'll talk about that going forward against this Lions pass defense.
As far as I'm concerned, this is the game of the week as far as points go, and obviously Vegas hit it on the head. You look at this, 2 clutch quarterbacks, one more so in the fourth quarter, one more so at home, but throwing the ball all over the place. I mean, in Detroit, you have 3 wide receivers that are relevant almost every single week. Marvin Jones hasn't been, as much recently, but most of the time you have Golden Tate and Anquan Bolden, who's been catching touchdowns quite a bit. On the other side, you got Michael Thomas, Brandon Cooks, and Willie Snead, who was star at the beginning of the season, is now faded. So this is an interesting game. There's a lot of people to pick from here. There's gonna be a lot of yardage, here, and I think the biggest thing is picking out which players are gonna get in the end zone.
I agree, and I think the Brandon Cooks throwing up 0 points last week is a complete outlier. LA last week, they tried to have a defensive scheme where they were going to shut down Cooks, and they thought because of that they might be able to do different things, and that's clearly not going to be a game plan that's going to be repeated. They say NFL's a copycat league. This is going to the thing that's not going to be copycatted because they went off. Everybody else went off. Michael Thomas had 2 touchdowns. Willie Snead, like you said, he had a couple of games in a row. Brandon Coleman, the tall, big wide receiver,
where'd he go?
He's caught 2 touchdowns in 2 last 2 games, I believe. He doesn't get many yards, but he's another target for him. So it's kind of like you said last week, it's throwing a dart at the dartboard and hopefully you pick the right one. Yep. We talked about it earlier, and we'll talk about it a little later. We are kind of on the Brandon Cooks train this week. We think he's going to have a bounce back game. He was frustrated. He came out, he said he's frustrated about the offensive game plan. He didn't feel like he was utilized enough, obviously, because he didn't get a single reception or maybe even a target. So that's it's going to be a fun game to watch, and it's going to be very high scoring, and I'm loving Drew Brees in this game, and we'll talk about a lot of these players later.
Yep.
Spring break in the ghetto.
After Katrina, yes, it is now the ghetto. All right, so now we have the Los Angeles Rams. They're at New England. The over-under on this one is low. It's only 44.5, but New England is favored by 13.5 points, and New England's projected to score 29 points.
Okay, so L.A. all the way across the states here in New England. You have a defensive coordinator in Greg Williams. You know him from the Bounty Gate. Yes, Greg Williams is the D coordinator over with the Rams. They run a lot of 4-3 scheme. They have actually a great defensive line in what's his name?
Quinn?
No,
Aaron Donald.
Aaron Donald.
Okay.
Excuse me, Aaron Donald. Actually, very good defensive line. They bring a lot of aggressive blitzing styles with Greg Williams' scheme. So they're going to try to bring pressure against Brady, but their pass defense is right up there with giving up 20 touchdowns through the air. So I like the air attack with the Patriots and how they're going to scheme things. They always find a way to get the ball in the players for the best matchups, and they bring in a lot of that pressure on that kind of defensive style. It forces them to be in a lot of man-to-man situations. They like to be aggressive, but that means you put your guys on islands. Could be some big plays through the air with Tom Brady. Is what I'm leaning more towards in this game.
Yeah, I mean, I like Tom Brady. Obviously, Vegas, I mean, we talk about this. Anytime you get up above the 10 points favored, that's a lot of points to cover. This is honestly a week where I think New England could bounce back and cover the spread. Recently, they've been keeping games kind of close compared to what they've been
last week I did call. I said it's a divisional game. New York Jets kind of have New England's number. This is not a divisional game.
No.
And they're at home this one, and I think it's going to be. I think they're going to beat them by probably 2 touchdowns, maybe 3, and the ball's going to be tossed around. And a guy who I think is going to be up and coming is, I think, Deion Lewis. He's getting more touches to the ball. I think you're going to slowly see LeGarrette Blount get less and him get more because he's a lot more athletic, and he's just as strong.
Well, and don't forget, Julian Edelman is still a possession guy who can score quite a few touchdowns. Gronk's still probably going to be hurt. It's a back injury, right?
Yeah, he's game time decision.
Yeah.
Back injuries, you never know how those turn out.
And that's why I like Mitchell, and that's what I'll talk about a little bit later, but I believe Gronk's out. But also, one thing that has been mentioned is Bennett has set out practice today with an ankle injury as well, and he's questionable. So who knows what they're going to do with a tight end. But if they're both kind of injured, let's say Bennett plays, but he's just kind of a decoy, that's going to give a lot of targets to that receiving core. That means Edelman. Edelman had 17 2 weeks ago, 10 last week. And then Malcolm Mitchell, who's been an up-and-coming rookie receiver, which we'll talk about later. And then, who knows, Deion Lewis could catch something out of the backfield.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that can be done in this game.
I like Deion Lewis quite a bit as a tournament game play. He's pretty cheap, and he easily can outscore his value.
Yep.
Great. All right, moving on. Next one we have for you guys is the New York Giants. They're at the Pittsburgh Steelers. The over-under in this one is 49 points. Pittsburgh's favored by 6 points, projected to score 27.5 points.
Okay, so you have New York's defense here is a 4-3 scheme. Again, they like to bring a lot of pressure. They have walk-ups on the ends. They do a lot of 0 and quarters coverages, so that's going to put your defensive backs on a lot of islands. Now, the rushing attack or rushing defense for the G-men, actually pretty good this year. Only giving up 89 yards a game on average. Only giving up 9 rushing touchdowns. That's top 5 in the league. Very good. It's hard to go against Le'Veon. You know, I can't say he's going to be a bust this week, but it's going to be tough to run on this defense, especially Le'Veon catches like Nick, Dr. Healy, you made a good point earlier when we were talking that he catches a lot of 4, 5, 6 balls a game out of the backfield, and you're getting points out of that from Le'Veon as well. Now, his straight rushing attack may be down a little bit this week. I know we all like the passing attack with Big Ben and whoever he's going to be throwing the ball to this week. I would lean more towards that going versus against this Giants defense this week.
Yeah, this game is pretty simple for me. I think both teams are going to come out throwing the ball. You got Odell Beckham on one side and Antonio Brown on the other. 2 of the best receivers in the league. I think this is going to be kind of a shootout on their parts. Who can one up the other one? So,
this is definitely going to be exciting. One thing that I've noticed, and it's kind of been crappy for the value that we've had, is Big Ben has not been targeting other receivers other than Bell Antonio Brown. Eli Rogers had like 6 or 7 points. We thought he was going to go off last week. The week before, he did about the same thing. Sammy Coates has not had a reception in the last like 5 games.
Broken finger.
He's got 2 broken fingers.
Kind of need your hands when you're a receiver.
Oh, I agreed. But even before that, he still was barely even being targeted.
Well, this is going on 6 weeks with that broken hand. So, 6 to 8. He should be bouncing back pretty soon here.
Unless he keeps re-breaking it.
Yeah, that's true.
But that being said is Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown have been getting all the targets, but they came out and said that Ladarius Green was going to have a heavier workload this week. And for its value that you're going to be paying for him in DraftKings or Fanduel, I believe it's right around $2,800 on DraftKings, is a steal. If he actually, because he's an athletic body, he's huge and he's fast.
Yep.
So, all right, next game that we have for you guys, that's going to be the Washington Redskins. They're at the Arizona Cardinals. The over-under in this game is 49.5. Arizona is favored by 2.5 points. Projected score 26 points.
Okay, Washington Redskins. They're cover 2 zone scheme most of the time. Now let's talk about they have their lockdown corner in Josh Norman. Obviously, kind of got lit up a little bit in the last couple. Not terrible, but you have to consider him one of the top defensive backs in the league. He's going to be going up against some of their top guys in Fitzgerald. Now Fitzgerald works from the slot quite a bit too, and they mix and match their guys around. It's going to be tough to say who he's going to really be matched up the entire time with. He doesn't always shadow, and I don't think they would in this case. It's not like they have an OBJ and no one else. They have Michael Floyd, they have Fitzgerald. There's guys they can throw the ball to, but they haven't really been performing much of anything. But you have their rush defense is really what I'm concerned here for them. Giving up 16 touchdowns, almost worse in the league, and
Is worse in the league.
And giving up 4.7 yards a carry on the ground, second worst in the league, only to San Francisco. Love David Johnson in this.
How can you not?
And you even love David Johnson. He's catching more balls than some of the receivers in some
My
of
mouth
these
is
games.
watering to think how good he's going to be.
So he's in.
You think you can stop me, period? You can kiss the baby.
Yeah, he's on one of my season-long teams. He's my number 1 pick in one of my auction leagues, and I'm so happy I paid up for him. And I didn't overpay. People are like, he'd be all right, and he's been killing it. I love it.
Yeah.
David Johnson's a must start all the time. Doesn't matter what kind of matchup he is in, but he's a must start. So obviously, I love David Johnson.
Can you tell us something we don't know?
I'll tell you something that you guys don't know. In this game, I am picking.
You like that? You like that?
That's right. I'm picking Washington in this game. I think Washington comes out, and I think they beat the Arizona Cardinals. I said from the start, this is a game I don't like. Carson Palmer's been trending downward. Bruce Arians is frustrated with his receiving core. John Brown is hurt. Michael Floyd is on the bench. J.J. Nelson can't catch anything.
But any points that do happen from the Cardinals are going to go straight through David Johnson.
Or maybe Larry Fitz.
Larry Fitz
has been okay.
And he's going to be probably coming out of slot where Norman doesn't usually come out of. But a guy who's been coming up and he scored 2 touchdowns in the last 2 games is the tight end, Gresham.
No, we talked about
Gresham.
Yeah, and I'm loving him. He's a cheap play, $2,500. That's as cheap as it can
Tournament
get.
play.
As cheap as it can get when it comes to DraftKings. So he's a guy if you put in, he gets a touchdown again. Your lineup's made. Your lineup is made.
Honestly, when I'm looking at this game, Arizona gives up 13 touchdowns and is rated 10th in the league in rushing. I could see Fat Rob having a pretty decent game here. You can't count out Kirk Cousins. He's been spreading the ball around well. I don't think Jordan Reed's probably going to play with that grade 3.
Grade 3 separation of the shoulders, what they say in the medical report, and I've had a grade 2 separation of my shoulder.
Me too.
And trust me,
you can't lift it back up here. You can't hold anything.
That's grade 2. Grade 3, you ain't doing much of anything.
But the thing is, they say it's a grade 3, but he came back into the game, caught a touchdown.
Yeah.
He must have been they injected something, because otherwise he would not be able to move his arm.
Cortisone's a hell of a drug.
Hell of a drug. I cannot wait to watch this game when I'm sitting in a pool next Sunday.
Where are you going to be,
I'll be in Dominican Republic.
Oh, okay.
What are you going to do over there?
Child, please.
I'm going to be getting a tan, drinking a pina colada.
Spring break getting together.
Maybe Miami Vice saying, thank you, buddy, for getting married in the Dominican. Loving
there you
it.
go.
All right, next game we have for you guys is Buffalo. They're at Oakland. The over-under in this game is 49 points. Oakland's favored by 3, and their projected score 26 points.
All right, we got the Buffalo Bills in Oakland. Oakland's coming back from Mexico City.
Hey, Cervezas.
Spring break in the ghetto.
They're coming back down to sea level. I didn't realize that Mexico City was that much higher in sea level than it was like the Rockies.
Yeah, we talked about it last week.
Way up there.
Way up there.
2,000 feet higher. Woo!
7,000 feet up.
So, yeah, something like that. So Buffalo's a 3-4 scheme, playing against this Raiders offense who's been hot. I mean, one of the top offenses in the league. Dislocated finger on
LaShawn?
On Carr's finger.
Oh,
looked pretty brutal. It came back.
They said it was dislocated in two different spots.
His dip in his.
But even after that, he threw that beautiful spiral to Michael Crabtree.
I don't think it's going to be a huge
beauty.
I don't think it's going to be a huge deal, so I wouldn't be too concerned. He's been asked all week about it, and he goes, "It's fine. Don't worry about it." And I think it's going to be fine. It's more or less where are we going to pick the players through this game? They're kind of that New Orleans style. Like you got three receivers. Where's the ball going to go? You don't know. You look at Amari Cooper. I'm going to talk about him later. I think he's going to do as well as what his salary is this week. Crabtree's been consistent. Seth Roberts has been continuing to get targets. So I like the receiving.
Walford got a touchdown on a sick catch last week.
Latavius Murray could be a great play in this one too. So we'll talk about that. What do you guys think?
I like Latavius Murray here. I'm not quite as high on Cooper this week. I like Crabtree. I think Crabtree has been probably one of the most consistent players on that team.
I'm almost going to disagree with you a little bit about the consistency. Before last week, he was having like a 4-point game, a 5-point game. He had a string of like 3 or 4 games where he wasn't doing much, and then he came out of the shell last week.
But he's been consistent prior to those.
Yes, yeah, you're right.
So he dropped a couple games. He had a little, rut.
Yeah, everybody gets down on the dirt, so it's got to be picked up once in a while.
Well, and Derek Carr, to be honest, has been spreading the ball around to basically everybody on the team. Yeah. So it's hard to pick.
Well, when he played against Houston, he was dropping the ball and he slipped a couple times. So he had his targets still. He's been consistent with his targets. It's just his performance before this last game was kind of inconsistent.
The guy is drunk.
Something like that.
Crabtree.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you. I was like, okay. I love LaShawn McCoy this week against Oakland's rushing defense. He does have that dislocated finger, but he had it last week, and I don't think that's going to be a problem. He had 2 touchdowns last week. Another guy who has been up and coming, and you guys should stash him if you guys don't have him, is Sammy Watkins. We talked about him. We had a lot of, do I start him? I don't know, last week, and I said depending on who your option is, it's not a bad play if you can. Because we said, I expect him to have like probably 3 to 5 targets, and if he does something with them, it's going to be probably 50 to 75 yards, and he had 3 targets for 80 yards, and he's going to be even more productive this week. It was kind of a show and tell of what's to come.
That's a tough thing. I was reading some stuff up. So he was out 10 weeks with a foot injury. And he's been back about 2 now, 3.
No, this is his first.
This is his first week back.
He was practicing prior, but
they've held him out again. His foot is sore, and he only played less than 50% of the snaps from an injury that kept him out 10 weeks. That's just scary. It's not soreness. I think that might be like this is maybe a small setback.
It could be, but it could also be then be like, all right, let's again not rush you too fast in. You played a little bit. Let's give you rest where we can. And then we're bringing it back when it meets you.
10 weeks, do we know what his foot injury was?
We did, but I forget off the top of my head.
It had to have been more than a break, and more probably ligamentous if it was 10 weeks.
No, it did not require surgery. It was a ligamentous injury from what I recall. But
if it was an avulsion fracture.
I was wondering about that too.
You can look it up there. I don't think it was a fracture, but it was.
Well, ripped the tendon off the bone. I mean, that's.
But I mean, I don't think it was a fracture. I'm pretty sure it was a tendon issue, and a lot of times you have surgery, but because originally they thought they were going to have surgery and they didn't have it. So while Dr. Curry's looking that up, we can move on to our next game here. That's going to be the Kansas City Chiefs. They're at Atlanta. They're over under 49 points, and Atlanta's projected to win by 3 points, scoring 26 points overall.
Okay. I got a lot to say about this game.
I like this game.
Yeah, I do too. Chiefs going into Atlanta. Chiefs are a hot team right now, beating Denver. Falcons have been a very good team consistently through the year, and we've been waiting for them to crap the bed like they did last year. But I think they're the team that they should be, and they show there are. Chiefs giving up through the air 260 yards passing, 20 touchdowns, and now 13 interceptions. Now there's a caveat with that 13 interceptions. 6 of those 13 interceptions, about half of them came in one game against Fitzpatrick.
The bearded wonder,
the bearded
Fitzpatrick.
Wonder. So that 13 interceptions is a little skewed. So let's say they even got like 1 interception that game. That brings them down to like 7 interceptions on the year, which is one of the lowest numbers in the entire league. And they're still giving up 20 touchdowns. They're not as good as you think they are. And you're going up against Matt Ryan and the Falcons at home, who plays pretty well at home indoors with the receiving crew and Julio. Marcus Peters, their lockdown guy, doesn't trade back and forth. So you can put together packages where you're not lining your best guy versus their stud. And then look at this last week. The Chiefs against Trevor Siemian, who's not a staple guy by any means, just gets the job done.
He's a second-year guy to Northwestern.
Yeah.
He's not a staple by any means.
He threw for 368 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions. The only thing that got in his head last week with the Chiefs' defense was Houston, the linebacker getting up in his grill.
Marcus Peters was hurt last week, though.
It doesn't matter. I still don't care. Still don't care.
Okay.
You have enough targets, and he doesn't flip sides. You can make offensive schemes to get away from him to make your team better. And I just don't think this Chiefs pass defense is nearly as good as people think. If anything, I'm going to give him credit for is their pass rush, because it definitely showed last week with Houston.
Houston's been
it was his first game back.
Yeah,
he's a stud. Now, if they can contain him, I think Falcons run away with this game.
Matt Ryan, better quarterback. Devontae Freeman, better running back.
I feel like they're kind of the same running back.
Julio Jones.
Spencer.
Oh, no, I'm just saying Atlanta and Denver. Trevor Siemian.
Comparisons.
Yeah, Matt Ryan's better quarterback. Devontae Freeman to Booker,
yes.
Better running back. Julio Jones, probably better than either Demaryius Thomas or Emmanuel Sanders. So
the only thing that Denver has better is the defense.
Right.
So it's like the Falcons' defense hold some of the Chiefs to, but we're not. I mean,
we're not even talking about that. Fantasy purposes, these guys are gonna crush.
I think it's gonna be high. I would take the over in this game, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean 29th. Kansas City's 29th in the league in rushing yards allowed, and they're allowing 20 passing touchdowns this year. So there's a lot of points being given up on that Kansas City defense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a guy we have to talk about for Kansas City is a guy that was actually catching the ball was Spencer Ware, and they've deviated from that because Spencer was coming out with the short passes, those screen passes, and he was catching the ball. Now those passes are going to this athlete, Tyreek Hill, is coming. Yep. They give him the slot, they give him kind of long. He's a huge guy. He's kind of a mix between like a Percy Harvin and a Tavon Austin.
I like that.
Right in between there. He's a big guy. He's super fast, and do you see him plow through and get that touchdown at the very end of that game?
He was all over the scoreboard there.
Yeah.
I mean, returning, was it punts or kicks?
Didn't they say he runs a 4.28 or 4.29?
Returns, punts, and kicks. He ran a touchdown in. He was catching balls for touchdowns. Like, the guy's all over the board.
He's the first guy since the mid-'60s, and I'm blanking on Gale Sayers to rush a touchdown in,
return one,
and catch one.
So ridiculous. That's talent right there.
And one other uptick in targets with Ware not getting as many is
Matt
Kelce.
was out.
Kelce has consistently been getting better every week. He's on my season long, and I have him and Martellus. And I took Martellus out because he just hasn't been doing much, and I'm consistently putting Kelce in as my tight end, and he's been doing well.
What's scary about Kelce is he has not got the touchdowns.
He hasn't, but he's gotten the targets, and the targets have been increasing each week.
This is completely different from this game, but I did look up the Sammy Watkins thing. Sammy Watkins had a stress fracture in the bottom of his foot, and they actually performed one surgery already this year. Well, that's why he was out for 10 weeks.
No, that was prior to the season. I thought they performed
Well, then they did a second surgery because they put a screw in the bottom of his foot. So
really, I thought I heard he wasn't having surgery, but okay.
So That's just what I read from. I just took it off there, but one of the bigger names.
All right.
Anyways,
but hey, he's back, and he maybe he just needs a little.
Well,
using the foot.
They said the trainers pulled him off the field today because of soreness. So,
it's a precautionary. He's not like, oh, I can't do it. It's like, let's be safe for this one.
Yeah, we'll
and you see how it plays out.
Yep.
Depending on who you have, if you need a win, maybe. Let's say you already have the league set up. You're already winning the league. Throw him in there. Who cares? You don't even need the win if you already made the playoffs.
Bleacher Report. That's where it was.
Okay, it's a guy I'm not going to be playing in daily. Let's be fair.
Yeah.
But it's a guy that if you have him in your season lock, throw him in.
You're
the heck?
Fine. I mean, a bench player.
He's got a great playoff lineup coming up with the games he's going to be playing. So stash him. I mean, that's a great pickup if you guys have had him. So that basically wraps it up. We're going to skip the Houston Green Bay game. Green Bay's projected to score 26 points, but they're only projected at 45.5 over under. Dr. Curry tried to stink this one in, and we're just like, we talk about Green Bay enough.
Well, they are projected to score just as much as 4 teams on the slate. It's just that the other ones have better
over-unders, higher over-unders.
And no one cares.
They have better offenses playing on the other side of the ball. Let's put it that way. So moving on, we got our...
Flight player.
All right, my fight or flight player is a guy who's come around as late. He's a 4th-round pick, this rookie out of Georgia. He came on the last 2 weeks, scoring 3 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. He played San Francisco. He got 4 receptions for 98 yards last week and a touchdown. Week before, he played the Jets. He had 5 receptions for 42 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's Malcolm Mitchell. He's only going to cost you $5,600 on Fanduel and $3,600 in DraftKings. LA is ranked 7th total in the pass, but as Dr. Brecky mentioned earlier, they're giving up 20 passing touchdowns, so there's more of a chance that he's going to get in the end zone. I like Malcolm Mitchell, especially for his value. So.
All right, I like that. Okay, my fight or flight in your tournament play games this week is going to be Latavius Murray. Raiders going up against the Bills defense, a rushing defense that gives 114 yards per game, about middle of the pack, giving up 13 rushing touchdowns this year, which is bottom quarter of the league.
Second worst in the league.
Second worst in the league. Yep. Latavius Murray had a pretty good showing last week in Mexico City. He got, he's going to get those goal line carries. I think he's going to see the end zone this week. He's coming in at, I believe $6,600 on DraftKings, I believe. Let me check here. $6,700 on FanDuel, $54 on DraftKings. I like Latavius Murray to be a fight or flight for you here this week.
My fight or flight, I'm going with a guy who was targeted 0 times for 0 receptions last week. That's right, I'm going with Brandon Cooks. Risky. Actually, I think this week he'll be
Straight cash, homie.
So he's going up against Detroit. Detroit has only given up 5 rushing touchdowns all year. They are a top 10 rushing defense in terms of yards, and giving up the second fewest amount of touchdowns out of any team in the league on the ground, which means I'm staying away from New Orleans' running game, and I am going all pass because they're giving up 22 passing touchdowns this year, and I like Brandon Cooks coming out of the slot. He's not going to see Slay at all. I could see Michael Thomas getting a little more Slay this week, and Brandon Cooks was obviously angry and upset that he didn't get targeted, wasn't throwing the ball at all. They're going to get him some touches this week to get him back involved in the game plan. I like him to score a ton of PPR points and maybe get in the end zone. So
I like it. I think Detroit's slot corner, I can't remember his name, but he's awful.
Terrible.
He's awful.
One of the worst in the league.
All right, moving on. Let's go to our flatline, my boy.
Sounds good.
Fantasy Flatliner.
All right, my fantasy flatline for you guys is Todd Gurley. The only reason you guys start this guy is because of his name. He has not had a single game this year with 100 total yards. That's receiving and rushing combined. His best game that he's had has been 85 yards on the ground, and that was in week 3.
That's a good little nugget there.
And if you
golden nugget.
And the funny thing about that, if you took his combined yards, it would have been 80 yards because he had 5 yards negative.
Oh, top of the morning to you.
Another reason I'm throwing him to the Wolves is because guess what? New England has only given up 6 rushing touchdowns in the season, and that ranks as one of the top best rushing defenses in the league.
All right, I like it.
Okay, my flat line for your tournament play games this week is Jay Ajayi. He's going up against a Baltimore defense. It is first in the league with giving up yards, so they're only giving up 75 yards, 74.9 per game. It's a league high, or league low. Only giving up a total yards per game, 297, which is second best in the league. I think this is a tough, stout rushing defense going up against Baltimore. In Baltimore, I don't see a Jay Ajayi coming out and getting you your money's worth this week. I would stay clear of him.
And you have the offensive line that is out.
Yes, good call.
You have a multiple. He's only had good games when all 5 of their starters are in. They have.
You said there are 2 out for sure, possibly 3 offensive linemen out this week.
And one is for sure out is their center, is Pouncey. So if you have multiple of those guys out, he's not the same. When he had those couple 100-yard rushing games, it was only a couple of games this year that they've actually had the entire offensive line. They're up on scale with Dallas.
They're playing well. They are.
When they actually had the offensive line.
Well, and I was actually going to just go to that point. We talked about the Ravens rushing
defense. Incognito
defense.
down there still?
Well,
yeah, he's up in Buffalo.
No,
actually.
he's Buffalo.
Yeah,
he's doing really well for Buffalo. Actually,
well, we talked about the Ravens' #1 rushing defense when Zeke played them, and he was my flat line. Zeke did not do as well as he should have, and that's with that stellar offensive line with a couple of guys out. I don't put Jay Ajayi on the same
level
category as Zeke.
No,
I think
definitely
tier
2 down.
You can't run through a hole that's not there.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Good call.
My flat line this week, I'm going with Arizona. Like I said, I did not like this game from the start. I think Washington comes out and wins this game. Arizona is going down hard. They're crashing and burning. And
I'm hang gliding.
I'm dead.
Kind of like your regular season fantasy team?
Yeah, no, actually, all of my fantasy. I'm
just kidding.
If you haven't looked, Nick, I'm #1 in our league that we're playing.
I
better step it up.
I started 0-3 in my big money league. If I win this week and I beat the guy I'm playing, he's ahead of me. I'll take the lead on him, and I need one other team to lose. I'll take first. I'll be the #1 seed, and I started 0-3.
Oh, good for you.
Good for you. No one cares.
That's what David Johnson does for you in trading for Tom Brady midseason.
I'll give you an applause for that. But anyways, back to Carson Palmer being terrible, which he hasn't been great as of late. We're looking at the Washington defense. Washington's defense ranks 25th against the run in yards, but they've given up a league's worst 16 touchdowns. If Arizona wants to win this game, they're going to be running the ball and putting everything through David Johnson. The Washington passing defense is actually pretty good. They're 16th in the league in yards. However, they've only given up 14 touchdowns, and they gave up 3 to Aaron Rodgers 2 weeks ago, which means in any other game, they've only given up 1 touchdown through the air. I do not like Carson Palmer this week. I would stay away from him, especially in tournament games.
After those stats, I really wanted to bet you in the beginning. But after those stats, nice.
Yeah.
Good for you, Dr. Curry.
I don't think so.
I like it. All right. So now we're moving on to our essentials. My essential play for your tournament games is going to be Matt Ryan. He's I think like 5th rated for highest cost for a quarterback. He's playing a Kansas City defense that, as of late, as Dr. Brecky pointed to earlier, they're awful. They've given up over 300 yards passing to Trevor Siemian, who had 368 and 3 touchdowns, and Jameis Winston, who had 331 and a touchdown. Now let me get to Matt Ryan's stats at home this year, and this is where it really gets exciting. It's compared to like Drew Brees at home. This year at home, he's averaging over 333 yards passing and 2.5 touchdowns per game. That's not bad. Straight cash.
Like that?
Oh, I do like that. I thought it was straight cash.
Oh, I'll give you that one.
Straight cash, homie.
He's a guy that you're going to play. He's going to be extremely consistent. Let's say Julio Jones is being covered. He's going to find Taylor Gabriel, or he's going to find Austin Hooper, or he's going to find Mohamed Sanu. The thing about difference between him, Matt Ryan, this year and last year is actually sharing the ball around to different receivers. Last year, he was strictly forcing it to Julio Jones, which gave Julio Jones a fantastic #1 wide receiver numbers. Absolutely. He's still basically getting those numbers, but now Matt Ryan has decided, hey, guess what? I have trust in my other receivers and my tight ends that can get it done, and his stellar running backs at the position when he's throwing the ball. So there's plenty of people that are going to catch the ball here. I like Matt Ryan a lot in your tournament games.
Nice.
All right. My essential play for your tournament play this week is Drew Brees, baby. He's going to go off. I got some stats right here. Okay, so he's playing against the Lions defense, giving up 22 touchdown passes this year through the air, only 7 interceptions. Drew Brees is a stud at home. Let's review over some of his home games. Okay, Week 1 versus the Raiders, 423 yards passing, 4 touchdowns. Week 3 versus the Falcons, 376, 3 touchdowns. Week 6, 465 yards and 4 touchdowns. 2 weeks later, this is the one anomaly in the whole bunch versus the Seattle Seahawks. He passed for 265 and only 1 touchdown.
It's the Seahawks, though.
Seahawks. Denver at home 2 weeks later, 300 plus, 3 touchdowns. 2 weeks after that, which was last week, 310 and 4 touchdowns. So he's had at least three, almost 300 yards passing every game at home or more. 2 of those were for over 400 yards, and all but one game he had 3 or 4 touchdown passes.
Stud
at home.
You have to have him. Cash.
I love him.
You love him.
Let's do that. Drew Brees is my central play for your tournaments.
Love it.
Straight cash, homie.
All right. This is kind of an interesting take here, guys. My essential play this week for tournaments is going to be Big Ben. And the reason...
I'll go on quarterbacks here.
The reason why I'm going Big Ben, listen to this. So New York Giants, right? Their defense is pretty solid. I mean, they're 23rd in pass yards, but they're only giving up 10 touchdowns through the air. They're 5th in rushing yards, only giving up 9 touchdowns through the ground. So they've only given up 19 touchdowns this year. We just said the Detroit Lions have given up 22 through the air.
Through the air only.
Right.
So they've given up 5 on the run.
There's other teams that are giving up a lot more points than the New York Giants. However, the reason why I think Big Ben is going to have a really good game is listen to the last couple of games the Giants have won. Browns, Bears, Bengals, Eagles, Rams, Vikings, Browns.
It's terrible.
That's
pretty bad.
You have the Vikings in there.
The Vikings are the only, probably the toughest one, and maybe the Eagles when they were hot. But
I mean, and realistically, I left this one out. I knew you guys would like this, but the only quarterback who's relevant that they shut down is Aaron Rodgers, who they lost.
Forgot to mention that one.
They lost to Aaron Rodgers.
Okay.
23-16. So Aaron Rodgers did throw a couple of touchdowns on there, but
you had to make that point, huh?
I do think that, well, because it wasn't a high-scoring game.
Just kidding.
But I do think I think Big Ben throws the ball quite a bit in this game. Like I said, I think Odell comes out, and it's kind of a challenge between Antonio and Odell. Mm-hmm. And I don't like Le'Veon rushing the ball this week.
He can catch out that you just don't know.
He catches out of the backfield. They spread him out. They use him in so many different scenarios. I think Big Ben is a solid play this week and could surprise a lot of people by putting up quite a few points on this New York Giants defense.
Okay, I like it.
So... all right, well, let's move on to the cash games, guys.
Fight or flight player.
All right, my fight or flight player is from the Atlanta Falcons, and I'm going to match him up with my essential from the tournament game, and that's Taylor Gabriel. He's extremely inexpensive. He's going to cost you $5,700 in Fanduel and $4,000 in DraftKings. He's came on strong as of late. We talked about how Patrick Peterson might have to cover a little bit of Julio Jones, and how Matt Ryan loves to share the ball. And who he likes to share the ball to is Taylor Gabriel. He's had 4 touchdowns in the last 4 games. Each of those games he's had over 50 yards, and 2 of those games he's gone over 75. And he's played some stout passing defense. He's played Philly, and he played Arizona. Now he plays Kansas City, who ranks 19th in the league in passing yards, and as we already spoke to, with 20 passing touchdowns given up. So he's going to have his chances, because I do believe when Julio Jones is being covered by Patrick Peterson, it's going to happen. He's going to go to Taylor Gabriel. And they're not going to go to Austin Hooper, because Kansas City is number 1 in the league against tight ends. So they're not going there. So I think he's going to go to there. Or Muhammad Sanu is not a bad pick, but I think Taylor Gabriel's pretty solid.
Yeah, you're reaching deep on these fight or flight players. I like it a lot. Malcolm Mitchell and Taylor Gabriel. I mean,
nobody really knows him. They might have heard him this week on maybe on like a
fantasy podcast,
fantasy
like
podcast,
fantasy sport doctors,
sport doctors, something like that. Like
Okay.
maybe on you pick him up like a waiver wire thing because there's no one else and they heard him.
I like the picks.
Well,
I think they're going to be great. I think those are two sleeper picks that you can plug and play in tournaments or cash games.
The thing is awesome is you put these guys in your lineup. Let's say they both go off, killer.
You're going to get value.
The rest of your lineup,
huge,
could underperform and you're still fine.
Yeah,
exactly. And we're talking about one of the lineups where we do have both these guys, and what we can do at the running back position is just basically insane.
Yeah,
and we'll talk about that a little later.
I'm for my fight or flight for your cash game plays this week. I'm sticking on the same team, same core, Muhammad Sanu.
All right.
Okay. So maybe a little bit more of a well-known player. He's trended a lot better. Recently won a couple of hitches, but in the last 6 games, 4 out of his last 6 games, he has scored 12 points or more. He's only coming in at $4,300. So if he scores you 10 points plus, you're sitting all right. You're sitting pretty good. 1.5 times what you buy in for. 10 points, 11 points gets you, and he's done that 4 out of the last 6. And there was a 23-point game in there, a 15, and another 15. He's playing against, like we said, this Chiefs defense. 20 touchdowns given up, 13 interceptions. Remember, 6 of those came versus Fear the Beard Fitzpatrick, so it's a little skewed.
I like it.
A little skewed, so 13 could easily have been only like 7. Or, a 6 interception game. Like, that's unheard of. And then you're looking at what Trevor Siemian did to him last week with 368, 3 touchdowns and no interceptions. So I like Muhammad Sanu for his value, $4,300. He gets you 10, 12 points. You're sitting pretty. It's my fight or flight this week.
I have a question for you. Not that I don't like your pick, because I do.
Yep.
Do you want to have a a little bet?
Here
I
it
was
goes. Knew it was
waiting
coming.
for
I'll win for it. This is a tough one because I do like Gabriel. I do
who
like.
who has more points in DraftKings?
This is a tough one for me.
Gabriel or Muhammad Sanu? It's a pretty
It's
fair
all
bet.
whoever gets the touchdown.
It's a really fair bet.
It is a pretty fair bet.
I mean, they're both.
I think Muhammad Sanu has a better chance because he's
a taller target. He's more of a jump ball kind of guy.
No, but he's also, if you look at his last 4 weeks, he's had a lot more receptions than Taylor Gabriel.
Yeah,
Gabriel has just had the reception. Has had the
targets.
touchdowns.
He's at 8, 2, 7, 10, 4, 10. So it's a little sporadic.
A lot more consistent than Gabriel.
His receptions have been 8, 2, 5,
Gabriel's
9.
are 5, 5, 4, but they've had touchdowns.
You're riding the hot hand right now is what you're doing.
What, I'm hoping for a touchdown?
Yeah, you're hoping for it. But he's been hot. I like your pick. I do. And I'll bet you on that.
Okay.
Just to straight up, whoever, more points.
That was the most exciting thing that happened
that's a pretty
tonight.
fair bet, I'd say.
That's a great bet.
Ooh, a new match.
Oh, nice.
I tell you what, that was a great call on your part.
Nice match.
That was a great call.
Was that Bumble?
Yeah.
we'll
Nick.
give him a
No, Nick.
Swing.
All right, move on. Go.
Moving on to my
Yeah, what's your fight or flight?
my fight or flight. Jeez.
So you got cheese involved with it?
I wish it did. It'd be Gouda.
Swish, there's holes all over it.
My fight or flight player this week is going to be with the team that's projected to beat the other team by more than 13 points. I'm going with Dion Lewis.
I like it.
Los Angeles is 20th against the run. They're giving up 8 touchdowns on the ground, but they've given up 20 touchdowns through the air. What's interesting is they're 7th in yards for passing defense. So that tells me that they're giving up a lot of red zone touchdowns.
Yeah,
and if you look at traditionally what New England likes to do as far as red zone, there's a couple of people that stick out to me. Gronk.
Duh.
But
he may not play or he might be injured.
I don't think he's going to play, so you cross him off the list. And then you go Blunt. But rushing, they got a pretty good front with Aaron Donald and stuff. So
Yep, that's true.
I think you go Julian Edelman or Dion Lewis.
And Julian Edelman actually this year has not gotten the red zone targets that he's used to.
Right.
And maybe because that's for the foot injury, but they've been tossing it a lot of screen passes too.
Right. Deion Lewis.
Deion Lewis.
Well, to the
Or
running back,
James White.
to the running back
Right.
position.
Right.
But like you said, Deion Lewis is
Yep.
now taking over
I'll-
James White role.
I'll say
like
this
that
though, just a
I like it.
small devil's advocate here. Ogletree, their middle linebacker, hell of a player.
Yeah.
The middle linebacker, and I don't know, and he's not saying he's going to cover a
He's
running
not
back.
shadow Tom Brady.
But no, yeah. But that's who you need to match up with in the Deion Lewis out of the backfield as linebacker trying to chase him to the flats.
Although, did you guys see that cutback by LeGarrette Blount and Tom Brady out running in front of
Yeah,
Blount?
and he goes,
And he
he
goes,
just didn't touch anyone, and no one
Nobody
touched him.
touched him. He was just like,
Well, he said
Nobody touched
he
me.
said
He's free game.
Yeah. Oh,
He
they
said-
should've
but no,
crushed
they
him.
have too much respect. They're
Crushed
like,
him.
No,
Yeah.
they should have. But the great thing about your pick there is
Bet you
his
Belichick is having
value,
a heart attack
how
when
much
he's
he
running.
costs. if he does, let's say he scores a touchdown, Deion Lewis. His value is only $3,800 in draft.
That touchdown alone gets you it.
5,000 in FanDuel. These are a lot of value picks. I feel like within
Yeah.
here, and that doesn't usually happen. You usually have to go searching throughout. other
Value
teams.
tastes good.
There's a lot of value picks that we're finding here,
Taylor
boys.
Gabriel, Deion Lewis. I think those are all
Should just
great
be a
plays.
whole lineup with
plays.
value picks.
Muhammad Sanu, yeah. I mean,
There's a lot of expectation there, and with these
Matt
high scoring
Ryan with the
games,
two
it's going to go
understudy
around.
receivers.
Yeah, I love it.
I'm probably going to make a lineup like that. Just
Yeah.
You might as well.
Sanu, Gabriel, Matt Ryan paired with those two, and then Deion Lewis.
could be the Millie Maker.
And then throw in
Then
like a
Le'Veon
staple
Bell,
guy,
David Johnson,
like Le'Veon
Antonio
Bell.
Brown.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, crushing it.
I'm gonna make
I
it
like
right
that
now.
pick as well.
Right now, click, click,
Love
click.
it.
Fantasy Flatliner.
All right, boys. My fantasy flatline for you guys is a guy who has been riding high all season. We've talked about him. He was a value pick in the beginning, and then he was one of my essential picks, and now he's a flatline. That's Jamison Crowder.
Ooh.
And this is because
did he say that?
I did.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
So
no way.
controversial.
No, he didn't.
I did. And Arizona, that's because Arizona ranks number 2 in passing yards allowed, but they rank number 1 in passing touchdowns. They've only given up 9 total passing touchdowns on the season. And Arizona has only allowed 1 receiver to top 100 yards this season. Do you guys fair to take a guess?
I like that. No, who is this though? Sorry.
Arizona.
Ariz's defense has only given up 100-yard receiver.
Yeah, you can't use the internet.
No, I'm just doing Arizona's schedule because I have no idea who they played.
Okay. I'll let you guys search that for a
Yeah,
little bit.
tell me the names of the teams that they played, and I'll think of my, and then
looks like we got they did play the Falcons, they played the Rams, they played the 49ers, the Jets, the Seahawks, the Panthers, 49ers again, the Vikings, and they got that's it.
you know, this is going to be an oddball pick. I think I know who it was. I have in my head. You pick who you got.
Who do you think?
I know who I'm going to say.
Go for it.
Kenny Britt.
Wrong.
Oh,
Nice guess, though.
It might have been Miami you did that against.
I was gonna go Stephon Diggs.
You guys are both wrong. He gave it up to Jeremy Curley on the Monday night game in Week 5. He got 102 yards.
Against the Jets.
No other receiver has touched even 75 yards since that happened in Week 5.
Jets. Was that Fear the Beard or was that?
Jeremy Curley, San Francisco.
Oh, I thought you
Sorry.
said the
I
Jets.
I
said
did?
Jets. I said Jets.
Oh,
was like,
Curley.
what? Yeah,
I was
he
thinking
on the Jets.
Enunwa for some reason.
Yeah, no, Curley on San Francisco Monday
Both
night
guys
game,
I
baby.
can forget easily.
These are guys who they've shut down. Julio Jones, Mike Evans, Kevin Benjamin, Doug Baldwin, shut them down. Less than 75 yards. These are guys. This Arizona defense, passing defense, is for real.
Oh, they're good.
No, I know they're good.
And they have the Honey Badger coming back. They have Patrick Peterson. I'm not touching Jamison Crowder.
Okay, I like
That's
it.
why I like Fat Rob this week.
There you go.
Not a bad
I like
play.
it. Okay. My flatline for your cash game plays this week is coming you from Mexico City, Amari Cooper.
You know he played 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, Mexico was 2
2 weeks ago, my boy.
Oh, whatever.
Played Carolina last week,
Oh,
but
perfect.
I like the way you say it. So
Mexico?
Give us another one.
It's like you're authentic.
Mexico City.
It's like you're authentic.
Spring break in the ghetto.
No. Amari Cooper. It's just been so yeah. Okay, so Mexico City. Yeah, he did all right. 15 points. Last week he got you 6.
The guy is drunk.
I might be. And Yeah, no, I think he's trending downward for his price at 7,700, 75 the last couple of weeks. The targets are going to Crabtree. They're going to Seth Roberts. He's spreading the ball around, and he's going up against
their number one corner every single time.
Yeah, I know. And he's not performing with what we're going to pay for him. Maybe he's not going to be a 0 points flat line, but I'd rather put my money elsewhere within the receivers that you can choose from right now.
Yeah, like you said, he's going to cost you 7,700 and draft.
That means I want 20 points out of him. That means I want 20 points out of him, and he's not giving me 20 points.
He's a top 5 receiver on DraftKings. He's going to cost you 7,800 in Fanduel, and I mean, maybe for Fanduel that might be a worthy cost, but in DraftKings it definitely isn't.
Buffalo is 8th in passing yards, so going to be a little bit of a tougher game for Carr and his wideouts, and with him spreading the ball around. I mean, who knows? Toss it up. It could be Amari. It could be Crabtree.
I like Seth Roberts a lot this week because he's going to have to check down. He's going to be going up against our third best corner, and he scored a touchdown last week. He scored a touchdown the week before. He's a good guy.
Did Jalen Richards score again last week?
I don't think so. I don't know.
Oh, we might not want to check that because I could have swore I saw him go in the end zone. And for a backup running back, they spread him out. I've seen him catch 30-yard passes. I've seen him be used as the backup to Latavius Murray.
I'll tell you here in a second. No, he didn't. He only had 2.3 points.
Yeah.
Okay.
He scored.
I was like, I don't know.
He scored in Mexico City.
Yeah, that was 2 weeks ago. Remember that? That was 2 weeks ago.
Hey, la cucaracha.
You know that happened 2 weeks ago.
I like the cha-cha.
I guess I will be close to Mexico when I'm in the Dominican Republic on Sunday.
Mexico.
Yeah, we know. Shut up.
Yeah. Who nobody cares.
Hey, cheers, my boys. Let's go.
We'll be thinking
picks.
of you tomorrow night on the field.
All right, we'll drink Corona in your presence, in your absence.
You actually should.
We'll drink Corona at the game tomorrow night.
Actually, what you should do is make Corona Limonas because they're delicious.
Those are pretty good.
Those are delicious.
We need to be able to drive home.
No, you don't. You have Uber.
Yeah,
all right,
Uber.
or to stay here. I mean,
my flat line. Don't forget about me.
Oh yeah, we forgot about you.
I
forgot. So my flat line this week is going back to that New Orleans game, which we kind of already talked about. But Detroit only 5 rushing touchdowns all year. We got Ingram as the pseudo number 1 back there. He had a huge week last week. I think he falls
on
way
limited carries
down.
He had 14 carries for 140 yards.
Playing a
10 yards a carry. That's insane.
It's one rush that you break for 40 or 50, and that makes you day.
Completely.
I think that was more like 2 or 3 rushes he had to do that. 140 yards for 14 carries.
Completely different team. They played LA last week, right?
Yeah, who's actually
20th in the league in rushing yards.
LA's got a lot to figure out.
Yeah, so compared to Detroit, I don't like Ingram. If I had to pick a running back here, I'm picking Hightower because he catches the ball well out of the backfield. With Detroit giving up 22 passing touchdowns, they like to they like to give up points to that running back who catches the ball and the wide receivers. So that's why I'm staying away from him.
All right, moving on to our essential pick, and that's going to be my boy out of the Division 1A school, Northern Iowa, David Johnson. I love David Johnson.
1AA.
1 AA.
Come on now.
Whatever. They switched it like 3 years ago.
The guy is drunk.
All
right.
Shit.
So there's a lot of reasons why I like David Johnson, mainly because he's David Johnson. But Washington, like you said, is giving up a league second worst 4.7 yards a carry.
Yep.
They've also given up a league worst 16 rushing touchdowns on the year.
Yeah, that's
a lot.
That's really bad.
Yeah, not to only mention like what he does on the ground, he also does a lot through the air. He's got 3 passing touchdowns the last 3 games, and he's got 10 overall touchdowns. He's had 10 overall touchdowns in the last 7 games. This guy's been a touchdown machine, and he's been a stud. He's probably the number 1. If it wasn't for Ezekiel Elliott, next year he'd be the number 1 pick. There's going to be really a toss-up between him and him.
Okay.
So I'm loving David Johnson, and if you don't have him in the cash game lineup, you're messing up.
I think if you pick David Johnson number 1 overall, you're happy with him over Elliott.
Yeah, he was my number 1 pick.
Zeke doesn't catch the ball.
I was talking about more of next year.
I'd still take Johnson number 1 over Elliott. He doesn't catch the ball as well as Johnson does.
Yeah, I mean, he's had at least 5 catches in the last 5 games, so he's a guy that he's a grade A wide receiver, but he plays running back. He's like
Le'Veon.
We all
Le'Veon.
like David Johnson.
Yeah.
All right, my essential play for your cash games this week is Michael Thomas. I'm riding the hot train. I think he's going to do well again this week. He's a bigger body target. Obviously, we talked about Drew Brees throwing the ball around. He's not really sure where the target's going to go. Look at Brandon Cooks last week. Didn't get even a target. I don't think that's going to happen. Michael Thomas has been a hot hand. Last week he had 34. The week before that he only had 11. But he's throwing a couple 20-pointers in there too. He's coming in at 6,900. So he gets me another 15 to 20 points. I'm all right with that. And I think he's going to do hot this week versus that Lions defense and 22 passing touchdowns let up. Actually he's a big body guy, but he plays from the slot. And Slay is their lockdown guy. I think Michael Thomas is going to do just fine this week for me. I'm going to play him in most of my lineups.
I feel like I want to make this bet, but I almost want to shove it to Curry so then we and you don't have a bet together.
No, definitely make that bet.
Well, then if one of us wins, we just cancel it out, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you can do it that way. That's cool. Yeah, I'm done with that.
But I'd rather have it's you two bet. But I think you might agree with this. Same thing we kind of did with Taylor Gabriel and Mohamed Sanu.
Oh, he wants to go Cooks and Thomas over.
Cooks and Thomas.
I don't really want to do that because I think both of them are going to do pretty well.
Exactly. That's why you would say who gets more fantasy points.
That's why I was hesitant to take ours, but I did.
Yeah.
Well, that one's a little different. You're talking probably the top two wideouts here, and you were talking
bottom two before.
The bottom two, which. Yeah.
I mean, it's exactly the same. I'll take that bet with you.
There you go.
Nick just didn't want to bet.
I mean, I did, but I say we do this a little different. Instead of shotgun a beer, I feel like we have to come up with something little. So the first one we can shotgun a beer, whatever. I feel like this one has to be a little unique. So we make two different bets. So no matter what, the loser has to do it.
How about you don't wear a shirt the entire podcast?
Ooh.
I'll be tan.
Mitch has got a perma sweater.
Tan, and I'll be warm.
Yeah. I'll be all tan.
You'll be warm from your tan. I'll be warm from my sweater.
The ladies love it.
All right. Yeah. That's hilarious, actually. Absolutely. All right. So
boom. I love it. That's a great
so that'd be
bet.
2 weeks from now that we'd have to pony up on that.
Unfortunately, I'm going to be gone, but I'm going to throw you guys my segments. I don't know. We're going to try to make me able to be on this somehow.
I don't think that's going to happen. Not for the Dominican. You just drink your pina coladas and we'll drink Coronas.
I might go Miami Vice. It's a mix between that and strawberry daiquiri.
I'm more of a strawberry daiquiri kind of guy.
Delicious.
We talked about Nick having coming in on Periscope and like typing us stuff so that we could say things for him. But
that sounds very difficult.
No matter what, I'll give you guys my picks, and that's probably about
that's
it.
gonna work out.
Sorry, guys, it just won't be.
I'd be like, Nick, what'd you type? He must have been on his 12th Miami Vice.
The guy is drunk. The guy is drunk.
I love it.
It's all inclusive, of course. At this time,
I got a wristband. Give me a drink.
I'll probably be sleeping by this time.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, browning out.
Moving on.
Are we doing our essential picks right now?
Yeah, you're on essential. We haven't forgot about you. Don't worry about it.
All right, thanks, guys. So my essential pick this week is going to be another guy who catches the ball well out of the backfield. I'm going with Devontae Freeman. And when you look at Atlanta playing Kansas City, Atlanta gives up the 29th most rushing yards in the league. So third to last in the league in rushing yards. However, only giving up 4 rushing touchdowns. So that's interesting. Between the 20s, they're giving up a ton of yards, and they kind of stiffen up, and they don't allow those goal line carries. Well, what that opens up is the passing touchdowns, which you have 20 passing touchdowns, and guess who catches the ball really well out of the backfield? Devontae Freeman. So I like Devontae Freeman quite a bit here.
Good take.
Especially if Peters is playing and he jumps on Julio Jones. Certainly.
You just hope Tevin doesn't get in there and get those catches.
Yeah, that's the biggest
thing. Who knows?
thing.
I mean, he didn't do much last week.
Yeah.
But he could.
It was his first game back from gone for 3 or 4 weeks
slowly.
and a hamstring, so you never know.
And honestly, I mean, between Sanu and Gabriel, you could easily get a touchdown vultured here, but you can't really go wrong with the 29th worst rushing defense in yards.
And to be fair, Tevin Coleman might be an outstanding
tournament play.
Yeah, we talked about
fair,
Tevin Coleman.
Yeah.
He's not much at all. I believe he's. Let's see what he is. He's not too expensive. Give me 1 second here. Tevin Coleman is
4,000.
$4,300 in DraftKings and 56 in FanDuel. $4,300 for what he can do if he's healthy. He's had another week.
Put up 20-point games when he was healthy.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, if you get that value, that's why he's a great tournament play. He's a guy I'm playing like a $3 or $5 tournament.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's that. I like him a lot.
I like that.
Before we move on here, I'd like to talk about, again, what I'm thankful for, because it is kind of still the Thanksgiving season. I would like to thank you for Pub Picks, because Pub Picks kicks some ass.
Yes.
All right, it's super simple. It's free. Dr. Brecky and I have both had great success. Dr. Curry, he needs to get. He needs to get again. He needs to get on the winning bandwagon. I mean, I can keep talking about it, but I might as well throw it over to you a little bit. Tell me a little about it.
You know, it's not good when you pick the Gophers over Wisconsin. I'll tell you that.
You did?
Yeah.
Wow. You looked
over here.
You looked really good in the first half.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah.
But anyways, it's Pub Picks. It's completely free, and you can download it on your iTunes. You can drive it on your Android. You just basically say where you're from, and then they have different tournaments and stuff where you're from. So, like, we bet on Minnesota Gophers, the Lynx when they were playing, Vikings,
Titletown.
Yep. And they also do like random things as well. But basically, you get free beer when it comes to like local breweries. You get free bowling and free gift cards as well.
Yeah. So Pub Picks is awesome. They go out to the different cities. They partner with the local beer breweries, bars, restaurants, bowling alleys, and basically they say, you know, hey, if these people win free stuff here, will you give them some sort of free entry or free beer or free something? And then you have more people coming in, and it works out great. And Pub Picks is starting to blow up, and we thank them for everything, and we love it. And I got to get a win here because I'd like to be able to
join us for a free drink.
Yeah, I'd like to have a free drink with you guys.
Stop being a little bitch and get a win. I mean, come on, let's get her. All right, let's move on here, guys. Let's give our prescription to win, eh?
Who wants to start today?
I'll start.
Let's do Dr. Curry.
All right.
Because he's coming kind of last, and we can kind of forget about him. He's like,
go.
oh, we got him right here, guys. Oh, we got him right here.
And you're like, oh,
who's that?
Oh, but I wrote it on the paper.
But no one cares.
Car Ramrod.
Car Ramrod.
So we're gonna start off with a cash game, and the more and more I look at this lineup, the more and more I think it's a tournament play. But
tournament play at that.
It means we're really confident in our value picks. Is that this is what it means?
You can
3 out of 4. I killed 3 out of 4, and the fourth one got 9 points. That's a great value pick. You can play this as a cash game. You can play this as a tournament play. I think this is going to be a good lineup either way. I love this lineup.
And by the way, we did deviate a little bit in this cash game from our normal standard.
But I mean,
picks,
we usually do with 1 or 2 picks.
Well, and you know what? It is one of the higher scoring total games.
Yep,
so
yep.
you know what? It's good in my mind. So the quarterback we're starting off with. How you go wrong with Drew Brees at home, playing the Kitties, the Motor City Kitties. It's
waiting for that kitty collapse.
They call me Kitty Cat. Shout out Tyler. So I like Drew Brees quite a bit. Drew Brees coming in at $7,600 DraftKings, $9,300 in FanDuel.
I mean, look what he did against Los Angeles, who's 7th rated pass defense.
Can't go wrong with him.
Nope.
I think you pay up for him. Next up, we're going to go heavy on the running backs. We're going Le'Veon Bell, my homie Le'Veon, and he's coming in at $9,200 in DraftKings, $9,300 in FanDuel. Follow that up with the best running back in the league, David Johnson, and he's going up against that league's worst touchdown rushing defense in Washington.
You can't have a lineup without David Johnson.
Yeah, you have to have a cash game. David Johnson's your
kind of like last week with the
pay up for it.
You had
pay up.
Yep.
$9,500 in DraftKings, $9,200 in FanDuel. I'm going with Mitch next.
All right, perfect. We're going to leave Healy at last. All right.
Save the best for last. I get it. Thanks.
So we're going to pair our QB Drew Brees with Brandon Cooks. We believe he's not going to get 0 targets this week. I think that's a huge anomaly. He's going to get targets. There's going to be lots of points scored, and there'll be a lot of touchdowns out of Drew Brees, and I think Cooks is going to catch one of those. Then we're going to come in with a couple wide receivers that are value picks, but I think they're going to get a lot of targets, higher scoring games. We like their matchups. They're going to be Taylor Gabriel from Atlanta. And then we're going to go Malcolm Mitchell.
With 2 L's.
with 2 L's.
Mitchell spelled with 2 L's, everyone.
Yes, with 2 L's.
Mitchell Brecky doesn't know that.
My assistant, Michelle.
For New England. So those are the two that were, a little bit more value picks, but I think they're gonna give you your money's worth in this cash game here.
All right, so for our tight end position, we're coming in with a guy that's extremely cheap, and we talked about it earlier in the podcast. That's Jermaine Gresham. He scored twice in the last 2 weeks. Granted, he's only had just over 30 yards in both of them, but he's been targeted quite a bit of times. And so because the rest of the receiving core in Arizona, other than Fitz, is garbage, Carson Palmer, he's old. He's looking for some quick outs. That's Jermaine Gresham.
He's just too old.
He's just too old.
Can't take his house. He's old.
Too old. All right, next one, enough flex position. This is a guy that crushed it last week, and we talked about it earlier again, that's Tyreek Hill. We expect Macklin to be out again, and they're going against Atlanta, who's given up a league-worst 24 passing touchdowns on the year. He's a guy that you basically have to start, and his value is extremely cheap. He's only going to cost you $4,600. Dolphins is going to be our defense. So that's what we're finishing up with.
I love it. Moving on. We're going to the tournament games this week. Well, first of all, we didn't mention, again, play the Thursday night cash games so that you can take out people who are playing Zeke, Dak, Diggs.
They think it's going to be a low-scoring game, and if there's not a lot of points scored, not a lot of fantasy points out of that game, it sets yourself apart.
And I need a quick stat correction. Atlanta is second worst in the league. They've given up 25 passing touchdowns. They're only second to Cleveland, who gave out 28, but they're Cleveland.
So, Tyreek Hill, great play. He's been all over the field the past couple of weeks, so that's why we deviated, went with him. So make sure you play the Thursday night games tomorrow night for cash games. Tournament games, try and shorten it up and keep it tight. Very tight. So we got the $5 game that we're playing Sunday only, and we're going to start it off with Matty Ice. Matty Ice is coming in at $6,800. He's a little bit lower on the scale. He's not quite that top tier quarterback like Aaron Rodgers or Drew Brees, but he's been killing it this year. They've had basically the number one offense in the league. I think Devontae Freeman's going to catch the ball well. I think Julio Jones, Sanu, all those guys are going to be great. We are actually going to pair Matty Ice with Devontae Freeman because we think he's going to catch a ball out of the backfield and go into the end zone with it. Maybe a little screen pass. Devontae Freeman's coming in at $6,100 DraftKings, $7,400 Fanduel. And then we're going to follow it up with Tim Hightower. Same kind of idea. Detroit giving up quite a few passing touchdowns, not quite as much rushing, but that could mean a running back catching the ball and getting in the end zone.
All right, and now for our receiving crew, we're going to go with Antonio Brown, a staple. He's going to be $9,000 on FanDuel, $9,100 on DraftKings, but he's playing against the New York Giants defense. We talked about that competition between Brown and OBJ. There's going to be a lot of aerial attack. I think Antonio Brown's going to be a great pick for you. He's going to be worth the value you put out there for him. Then we're going to go with Michael Thomas again. One of my picks I do like this week. Drew Brees, hot at home, 3 to 4 touchdown passes almost every single time he's playing at home. We think Michael Thomas is going to stay hot this week, and he's going to get a lot of those points. And then we're going to go with Gabriel again. Okay, lower owned, might be a little bit more of a tournament play, but we're really high on these. He's playing against this Kansas City defense, like we talked about, giving up the most touchdowns, 20 touchdowns through the air. And then remember, we talked about Simeon lit him up last week. I think Matty Ice at home is only a better play versus this defense. We like Gabriel again.
Yeah, and so we're going to go to the tight end position now. And again, we're trying to find value because we have a lot of high-value players like Devontae Freeman, Antonio Brown. They're going to cost a little more. So what we did, we took Ladarius Green. Their head coach for Pittsburgh Steelers, they said that he was going to get a lot more touches this week. So I think Jesse James is going to be more on the downside. And Ladarius Green is such an athlete. We mentioned a couple weeks ago, he runs a 4.5 40. He's a huge human being, and he's when he played last year for San Diego, when Antonio Gates was hurt, he played 4 games and he got 4 touchdowns. So I think as a guy, if he gets more involved, especially in the red zone, Big Ben is going to target him. Next guy we have for you guys is a consistent guy, especially in PPR, which DraftKings is Julian Edelman. Again, he had last week he had 10 targets.
More than 10 targets, yeah.
More than 10 targets. A week before, he had 17. He's going to catch the ball 5 to 8 catches at least. And if
we haven't really talked much about him this year.
17 targets?
He just hasn't got in the end zone.
He has it. He got in the end zone when he had the 17 targets.
Yeah.
But I think this is a game that he can because when you have Gronk out and then you have Bennett out, they're going to score points. They're going to throw the ball 40 times.
That's what Brady does.
So that's what they do, and they're going to find people to throw to, whether it is Malcolm Mitchell, whether it's Julian Edelman's going to get the touches, Deion Lewis. I mean, there's going to be plenty of people for it to go around, and there's going to be so many points scored in this game that there's a lot of fantasy value.
And to be fair, I mean, Malcolm Mitchell kind of looks like that guy that they go to in the red zone now. He kind of is a bigger body receiver, and they've been tossing the ball up to him. He
reminds me.
The great thing is he's had all these touchdowns with only playing about 30% of the snaps.
Yeah. See, yeah,
it's great and bad at the same time because like, dang it, but that means he's building trust with them.
Yeah,
kind of like LaFell of like 2 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Almost. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, and then we're going to finish it up with our defense. We have the Redskins defense. Dr. Curry mentioned how much he loves their defense and he thinks the Washington Redskins are going to take it.
Well, let me tell you how much I love their defense. They're giving up a 30 touchdowns this year on defense. But guess what? They're playing the guy that's just too old, and he's not going to make it.
I like your reasoning there, sir. So basically, that just does it up for us here.
Awesome.
So thanks for listening. You can find us on
www.fantasysportdrs.com.
Basically, type that backdraft up. And let's put it on all in one word.
Yeah,
right there.
Make a www in front and then a .com at the end. Yeah.
Like us on Facebook. Make sure you listen to us on Sunday mornings about 10:30 to 10:45. We do is start 'em, sit 'em. We'll answer every single question that you have for you, and it's a blast.
Guys, no joke. It's super awesome. It's going to be me and Mitch this weekend.
Yep.
Last week, we had over 1,500 viewers coming in asking questions.
We got them all answered still.
Literally, we had to spend extra time. Nick and I were scrambling to get our own lineups in because we called it at 11:55. So these are people who are waking up last minute, trying to get their lineup set, don't know what to do. Come on in, give us a shout. Send us your question. We're going to answer it truthfully. You can decide to trust us or not, but I would say trust us. We're doctors.
Good call.
Yep. And
that basically says that we care more about you guys about our own lineups. So that so that what that means is you guys are lucky. All right, because trust us, we're doctors. Like us on Facebook or any other aspect of it, because we are giving away a free jersey. Once we get to 1,000 likes, we will give a free jersey of your choice, and it's free shipping, free whatever. We've had that question before for some reason.
Like our Facebook, like our Instagram, like Twitter, follow Twitter, whatever it is,
and just tell your friends.
Yeah, hey, come on in, join us, and we're gonna help you win some money.
Hey, if you're ever in Minnesota, come on, Facebook us, and we'll grab you guys a beer.
Well, top of the morning to you.
Take care, guys.